Congratulations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas with our always very special guest, the Test Geek himself, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC, Brian Lee. We are here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time to help primarily with test content. But if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to join us for the fun and fellowship. So whatever reason you're here, tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. And if you do have a question for us, it would be helpful if you put it in the following format. Tell us what exam you're taking, followed by a capital Q. And then your question. That helps us pick it out of the chat from people who may be chatting amongst themselves or sharing testing victories, doing other things. It also helps because there's a lot of overlap on these exams. And, you know, when you ask a question, sometimes Brian will eat up time kind of figuring out, is this content, this question for that content on this exam or that exam? Because, you know, it tweaks a little bit based on that. We'll take care of some housekeeping, and then we'll jump right into answering any questions you may have from any FINRA or NASA exam. Brian and I are collaborating on a 66 podcast series. We've been stuck on episode 4 just because of the holidays and things going on. And, you know, our free activities always come after our paid activities. So, but we should hopefully get that episode up here in the next week or so. If you're looking for a paid supplement, the best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. It's completely free. Everything on the channel is free. And even on my paid booking page, there are some free items. In fact, tonight, if you go to the top of the chat, you'll see a link. And I am doing tonight a live stream overtime session that we do every 2-3 weeks. We don't do it all the times after live stream, but sometimes we're doing something that doesn't lend itself well to even Brian's board. Like the other day, somebody asked us, could you go over advanced options in 10 minutes? And in that case, it would be better to join us on the live stream overtime session where I have a Zoom board, and I'll do as much as I can in that overtime session. If you're looking for a paid supplement, the best paid supplements out there are a Kaplan Q Bank. You can get a Kaplan Q Bank, depending on your exam, for $60 or less with my 15% discount code at checkout, which is Guru15. That works for all Kaplan products. In fact, I'm teaching a Series 66 next Monday. And if you want to join us for that, you're welcome to enroll and use that discount code to do so. That'll be 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Pacific time. And if you are looking for a complete paid supplement, our friend Brian has been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his products, his content, all in on a video series of your exam. It's about $100, a little over. I think there was a price increase, but with the discount, I go around a C Note, a Benjamin, a great investment, If you missed any of our live streams, they are available as a podcast on Spotify. And in terms of using our channel, I get this all the time. I mean, the channel is self-serve. I had a guy yesterday, Brian. Oh, there's 3 playlists. Which order should I go to? I said, well, if you look at it, it says playlist 1 of 3. The other one you've linked to says 2 of 3. That one says 3 of 3. So if you're looking for your series, go to the playlist. You don't want to try and find out of 700 videos, your particular video. Use the playlist if you want to binge. If you're looking for a particular topic, this happens all the time. Do you have something on parity? If you just put in the channel search bar parity or accrued interest or margin in the channel search bar, everything I have up there will come up. And many times the answer is I have 6, 7 different versions of that kind of thing for you. Let's see, we got any other housekeeping? We do a drawing at the end of each of our sessions. I was getting where I was having floating contingent liabilities on this coaching call. So I'm trying to lock that down a little bit so I don't get in the hole. If you win, you need to claim it within 1 hour by sending an email to deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. When I receive that from you, you will receive the Zoom link to that date and time for your coaching call. If you can't make it, that's on you. That's not on me. You can assign it. You can share it. You can do what you will with it. But I don't have time with paid tutoring to try and fit you in somewhere at your convenience. If you want to meet with me at your convenience, then, sign up for a tutoring session. Okay, let's see what we got going on in the chat.
Let's do it.
Boom. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Well, I'm sorry the other day, man. The Steelers are gone. Rama here for Series 24. All right. Would-be general securities principal. All right. Babysitting sevens. That 24 can be really challenging. I don't know if I had a chance to tell you, Brian, we had that other 24 join us. And I think he said your mantra you shared with him, which was protect the customer or something along those lines.
Right.
He said was very, very helpful, and he did make his mark.
Good.
And I got some, I'll share with you backstage, but I do have some good debrief on that.
Excellent.
Idaho, Series 7, beautiful state. 66. All right, Carla. Miami, Florida. Ooh, I like Florida, but I just can't handle hot and sticky. It's just, that's not my thing.
Not this time of year.
You can take it any order you want. So the question is, can you take the Series 7? Can you take the Series 7 for taking the SIE? The answer is yes, they're co-requisites. So that means you don't have to have the SIE 7. You can do 7. I don't recommend it. I recommend you do SIE and 7. But I have a young lady that is taking the 7, and her expectation is the overlap on working hard on the 7 will allow her to pass the SIE. It's not my recommended course of action, but you can certainly take the 7 before you take the SIE. They won't be active until you've actually got both of them. That's what we mean by co-requisite. You got to put them together to make it work, make it whole. Brian, your thoughts?
Wouldn't they have to have a sponsor for that 7? They don't need a sponsor for the SIE.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't need a brokerage.
I don't think the question was about sponsorship, but let's be very clear. Brian's right. Anyone can take an SIE, and I highly recommend you do. I think that, Brian, I don't know if you would agree with this. I think the SIE was, here we go with the old guy conversation. Back in the day when I walked to work uphill both directions, the Series 7 was 2 3-hour sessions of 250 questions. And the barrier to entry into the securities industry for human capital was quite high. I mean, but back in those days, being a stockbroker was kind of like being a fighter pilot. It was something people really wanted to do. Now it's become more of a career rather than a glamorous kind of a job it used to be. And I think they came up with the SIE to make that curve, that entry into the business, a little more manageable. Right. So I kind of think of the SIE and 7 together as what was the formerly old 7. And what's great about the SIE, this is from the broker dealer's perspective, is that they can hire somebody without sponsorship or with sponsorship, but you can show up and already have that. And I do think that's a good sweat equity investment to have on your resume or your curriculum vitae. You can even take the NASA exams without sponsorship. We have a lot of college students take the SIE without the intent of taking the 7. I sometimes forget that because I'll be talking to people and saying, hey, what's the next leg of your testing journey after the SIE? And you're 6 or 7, and they'll say neither. I go, okay, well, that could be the right answer. But Brian is certainly right. You do need sponsorship for the 7. All right. What's our next one? Nico, I did get your email, and I will be sending you the invite for our shared screen final on a Sunday fun day morning, and we will share that with others when we're done. I hope you do as well on that as you did on our coaching call, because my goodness, that was some impressive performance. So I'll see you Sunday for that Sunday morning. And hopefully nobody tells us what's happening on football because we'll have it DVR'd and we can watch it after. 65, might go for the exam. I don't like, Rob, I might go for the exam in 2 weeks. What I don't like, Rob, is, this is just me. I like a date certain. When is your date with destiny? What I don't like about those kind of dates is that both Brian and I think Brian agrees, I'll defer to him here in a sec, think that your study plan should be reverse engineered from your test date. And so if you don't have a test date, it's kind of hard to reverse engineer the study plan that gets you the P, as Brian says. So when you don't have a test date, Rob, I kind of think of you, and I hope that this isn't coming off as being rude, but you're kind of in limbo a little bit because we don't know where your exit is, so to speak. So my recommendation would be let's firm that up. Yeah, from I might go to the exam in 2 weeks. Give yourself a fudge factor. Set a date for 3 weeks, right? And then based on that, you can do that. Brian, your thoughts on you might go to an exam in 2 weeks?
Fear is a great motivator.
Yeah. When you have a date, I'm with you on that, Brian. The other thing, Rob, is when you have a date certain, your brain will naturally start drawing you to that date. in the execution of your study plan. Listen, I'm not going to give, I don't know if you're listening. If you are, I still love you. But she changed her date without talking to me. So we get on the tutoring session, and now there's an artificial sense of relief because the date has now been moved. And I wanted that relief to come from having made the mark. That is what you want. You want to make a mark. And so I'm not a big believer in not having an exam date. I'm also not a big believer in pushing an exam date. There are circumstances in which I would agree to push it. Brian, your thoughts on when you have the date pushing it?
10, 15, 20. Again, a couple of the old war horses here.
Yeah.
I remember a time when you really didn't have a whole lot of choice on the dates of your test.
Yes, that's true.
That would be backed up so much.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's as much of a problem as it used to be. So people can pretty much schedule a date whenever. But again, I do like that date out there. I don't know what he's done so far at this point, but we know from that 7 to 10 days back from the test date, that's when we want to start evaluating. So maybe he's done some evaluation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Easier to say.
Like I said, we'd like you to get your date. So, if you can, that would be what we would recommend. All right. Jamel, welcome back. Could you go over limit up, limit down rules for the Series 4? I'm not sure how much limit up, limit down you would get, but it refers to the maximum amount of price can change in a trading day. And those are based on the volume of that. Usually it would be 10%, and then we would restrict the orders. And so the stock goes limit up or limit down. It triggers an automatic trading halt. And that is the limit up or limit down is that range. You want to add anything to that, Brian? I think on Series 4,
I'm wondering how much that's on the 4.
Yeah, I think it's very, very low probability on the 4. I think, who do we have joining us? Rama, you're joining us for the 24. I think that's much more a 24 topic or 57 topic, Jamel, about limit up and limit down rules. So Series 4, I think the mistake there is it's going to be more sales supervision than perhaps option strategies. But I hope you found that helpful. And like I say, if you want to, Jamel, just send me an email. I'm more than happy to jump on a quick Zoom and go over that with you. But again, think it's low probability. Finally done. Pass 65 today. Got the pass. Right. Thanks, Dean and Brian, for all your help. Brian, your Test Geek videos are awesome.
Yay!
Woo! And Dean, your test sessions are the best. Thanks again. All right. Woo. Oh, hey, I got a new thing. I was watching, Brian, It's a Wonderful Life over Christmas.
There you go.
And you remember what Clarence says when he hears a bell ring?
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
And here, every time somebody passes their test.
There you go.
That's for you, Zwit.
Excellent. Excellent.
All right, Grace. We'll mention that you're joining me from social media. What happened, Brian, is Kaplan had somebody go down that was supposed to teach that 66 next week. And so they called me up, and I'm like your utility infielder. I always tell Kaplan and students, Grace, they should think of me as the greatest substitute, because I'm not really into doing all the admin and stuff I'm supposed to do. I'm like,
inch hitting.
That's right. So I'll see you Monday, 9:00 Pacific time. Good to see you, Yeti. Good to see you as well. Yeah, we're working on new material for the 66. That's that podcast. I'm trying to get where we have every series exam on the channel has at least 3 playlists: a lecture playlist, a practice test playlist, and a podcast is where I'm heading with the playlist. How great is the past perfect to the actual SIE exam? Gabriella, well, I think it's way too much, but too much is better than not enough, right? So would I recommend past perfect to pass the SIE? I would not. But again, I wouldn't recommend past perfect for any of the exams, but not because they don't have enough content, but because rather they have too much content. And a lot of it is stuff you will not encounter on the exam. So Gabriella, for example, I have a lot of sponsoring broker-dealers that use Past Perfect, and they have locked-in learning where they won't let the candidate progress to like Unit 14 till they pass Unit 13. And it was like margin. You could get stuck there for weeks. Anyway, somebody had paid me to do their past perfect margin practice questions with them and go over them so that they could move on to the next unit. I posted that as a tutoring replay, and I call it hellacious margin questions. And I felt bad because, tutoring is $225 an hour, and I just felt really bad that she's paying $225 an hour to do past perfect practice questions that Brian and I know she will never encounter on her actual exam. So that's the downside to past perfect. I think they're reputable. I think they're a great thing. I always joke that their sales team should get a bonus because I think they have convinced employing broker dealers. So almost everybody who uses past perfect, it wasn't their choice as a test taker, it was their firm's choice. And I think the sales team has convinced them that not only will you pass your SIE in your 7 and 66, but you'll also be ready to go start into production. Now, I personally think that product knowledge comes from sales efforts, not passing tests. I think that passing the test is a separate thing. Now, do we want you to learn about convertibles and things like that? The answer is yes, but it's not so you can go sell those to customers. So you can get this first mission done, which is get the P to move on the next thing. So that's my thoughts. Kind of went overboard there on past perfect, but what do you think, Brian?
Ditto.
And Gabriella, I would just say the other thing I would make is, again, that's much better than being too fat is better than too thin in terms of content. So, now that I'm slamming vendors, let me continue on. I'm not a big fan of training consultants and Exam FX for the opposite reason. I think they're a little thin. So, what happened here? My thing is locked up. There we go. Oh.
No.
I'm in the banner part instead of the. All right, we're having issues here. Let me try that again. There we go. I've been able to catch the stream, so I passed my Series 65 December 29th.
There you go.
Kudos, Freelax Paint. Thank you to both Series 6 Nick. So here's a reverse order. I like it. You're doing your 65. I think the 65 is much tougher than the 6. I don't want to jinx you, but I think the 65 is one of the toughest exams out there. So hopefully you'll find that 6 to be a little mellower. Have you done your SIE already? I guess you have. Let us know if you've done your SIE. Yay, finally made it to a Sessions of Deans. Well, welcome. YouTube videos, Brian Series 7 class got me a first-time pass. Yay. And I am the only learning designer from a firm that has no finance background. I'm guessing maybe Vanguard, because I think Vanguard refers their corporate team as learning designers. And one of the guys I really like over his name is Ben, assuming you were from that area. He's just celebrated his anniversary as a crew member over at Vanguard. New Jersey. Oh, that's what I have now. I know what I'm doing. I've actually got this banner where it's showing up instead of the comments. Series 7, Maria. All right. 65, MBA. All right. Now, test question. Michael can certainly put an MBA there if he has one. Right? You're not allowed to misuse professional designations. That is a 65, 66 questions. And thank you, Michael, so much for joining us from LinkedIn. We broadcast to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and formerly Twitter, I guess X. And we love it when we see people from Facebook. I see Maria's from Facebook and LinkedIn. Our platform of choice is YouTube. But thanks for joining us. All is well. All is well. Yeah, the Ravens are looking tough, man. They're sitting there waiting on the next person, right? Or who they playing? I think they got to play. It's Bills and Chiefs. And Brian, you would know who the Ravens they got to play, right?
Houston Texans.
Oh, with a rookie quarterback phenom. Ooh, I think it's gonna be tough for the Texans to get that one done. You are welcome. You're welcome. All right, Christina, sales supervisor. Have you already got the 9 done? Or are you going to do the 10 and then the 9? 10-9 or 9-10? 10 is a slog too, Christina.
I was waiting for that word.
I hate to put out negative vibes, but boy, That 10 is just a slog. I do, Christina, have you can watch me do a series 10 and hit pause and see how you do. And I don't think I have. I might have somebody who I actually did one with. I'm not sure. Alexandria, Virginia, right across from the capital. Charlotte, North Carolina. Ooh, a lot of firms in Charlotte, North Carolina. Who would have thought that Charlotte's such a hubbub in the financial services industry? I mean, you got Bank of America.
Capital of the Southeast, no doubt.
Yeah. There you go. We get, people, liberal arts people. I'm a liberal arts person myself. And I think Brian's not a finance guy. He's certainly a math geek, but he didn't come to this with, having majored in finance. I think people with a diverse background really do well in our business because, the people who are so narrowly focused on our industry sometimes don't have the perspective. So I would encourage anybody who is got a background that doesn't kind of, scream, I'm going to go get a Series 7, to not let that bother you and just go ahead and do it.
Yep.
There you go, Series 7. 65. Good evening, Casey. Yeah, you need a sponsor for the 7, indeed. By the way, if you're looking for a sponsor, we should point out that, you might want to hook up in the chat. We're not a matching service, but, 24s are certainly usually good prospects for potential sponsorship if they have opportunities. So,
wow, 80 to 82 on Kaplan simulated exams.
Where'd I see that? I missed one.
There it is. Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic, Nate. That's fantastic. I don't think you should have any worries. You should sleep well. There's no reason that you should not make the mark tomorrow. So just be confident in yourself, be confident in your answers. And I think that's a P, as Brian says. So
yeah, looks good.
Join us, circle back with the next Tuesday and share your testing victory. Do you need to take the 79? Depends, Oscar. Some people were grandfathered on a 79. My answer is going to be no. I'm assuming, Oscar, your 7 was after we came up with the 79. So there isn't a prerequisite of a 7 to take a 79. And it depends what activity would trigger the 79. So, your thoughts on that, Brian?
None.
I would check with your compliance.
Yeah.
I know a lot of private equity firms I tutor for. They have 7s instead of 79s. And then, there's a lot of people that have 79s and not 7s. So I don't think the 7 is a wave on the 79. I think it's a function of the activity you're performing. Hey, on the test, will you offer a combination with a 63 and SIE together? I'm not sure what you mean. Will I offer a combination, or what you mean by that? Vendors do provide bundled packages where you can pay one price for your SIE, your 7, and your 63. I'm free, so I don't know what you mean by that. Brian, do you offer combination deals?
I do bundles. I'm only allowed, because of my platform, to bundle 2 at a time. So oftentimes I'll bundle the 6 with the 63, the SIE with the 7.
Okay.
I can't mix and match, but I do have some bundles. Yes.
Okay. You know what you might want to do I don't know if you're looking for your primary study materials, because Brian's is a paid supplement. But if you're looking for a paid supplement, just send Brian an email. Yeah. And, that's a good advantage of an entrepreneur like Brian. Maybe he can, work that out with you somehow, some way. What am I making does that make sense, Brian? Or do you want me to?
Sure. Plus the Guru 20 discount.
Yeah, there you go. So here's Brian's email. So if you're interested in a bundled deal with Brian, just send him an email. Yeah. And I don't know what bundles. It sounds like he can do the 2, and that's 2, but I don't know if he's got to have it on his.
I can't do all combinations though.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that like? Domino says they have 57 million different pizzas, but it's really the same base ingredients, just moving them around. Where does the 6 come in? Is that part 2? No. So Beverly, when people take their first, it doesn't have to be first, but the SIE, for most folks, it's going to be a fork in the road. And for most people, once they take the SIE, the fork is going to be either a 6 or a 7. If you are going to take the 6, that means you're going to be selling mutual funds with a prospectus. We call that a limited registration. That's the 6. And primarily, if the 6 would be followed by a 63 and a 65, depending on your firm. And then same thing with a 7, that's called full registration, meaning you can offer all securities except commodities. You're a master of jack of all trades, master of none, master of disaster. And then you would take either a 7, you would take a 63 or a 66. And so that's not always the case, but that's primarily what most people would be doing. Most people are taking an SIE, if they're not just doing it for their own curriculum vitae resume, are going to then take a 6 or a 7. If they're taking a 6, then a 63 and perhaps a 65. If they're taking a 7, they're typically going to take a 63 or a 66. So I hope that was helpful for you. Any last minute tips on the SIE tomorrow? Get a good night's sleep. I mean, I'm hoping you're confident. We had, who was the guy who told us 80-82s? Is that such a great place to be, Brian? I had a guy who's tutoring today. He's testing tomorrow. He's in the 90s. He's nailed it. I said, listen, you don't need this session. I'm more than happy to refund you the money. Or if you just want to, hang out and let me poke around in your brain housing group to see what's up there. And I have no doubt he's going to pass tomorrow. And that's just a wonderful feeling to have that confidence. Now, if you don't, you just got to, go down there and give it your best shot. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing you can do the night before is try and get a good night's sleep if you can, because, your reading skills are important. Yeah, Brian's saying if you're on the East Coast, West Coast, you should be in bed at this point, right? So, but get a good night's rest would be what we would recommend. Green Line exam at firm on February 2nd. I like it. So, firms, Brian's exams have very strong correlation to the actual exam. So Vincent, it sounds like your firm is kind of like Brian's firm when he started out. He's told me stories when he was in charge of their training that the manager would come to him and say, are these people going to pass their exam? And, he didn't know. And so he came up with his diagnostic exams. So if you want, I would highly recommend you can either watch Brian's Series 7, his exam. I don't call it a green light, but it has very strong correlation. You can watch it on the channel for free, hit pause, hit play, and you can get it for $20, about $20 as a PDF from Brian. Maybe, Vincent, do that one maybe February 1st or 28th, and that'll have to give you a real kind of good score for yourself going into your firm's green light. So maybe use Brian's, test as a pre-green light, green light, if that makes any sense. So Beverly, it looks like you're taking a 6, and then we would guess you're going to take a 63, 65 after. All right, pass the FIE in November. Can you guys hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very well.
I bought a digital one that I used to use all the time. And for some reason, when I would hit it, it wouldn't pick up on the mic. I don't know if there's something weird about digital audio or something. Good evening. 66 this Friday. All right. We'll be sending you good test vibes. Passed my 66 last week. I just wanted to give you a huge thank you to Dean and Brian. So, Brian, listen, we are good friends. We do collaborate. But on social media, Brian, there was a guy who couldn't figure out that we were different people. So I had like several exchanges like, this is Brian Lee, the Test Geek. Here's Test Geek exam, paid supplement. I'm the Series 7 guru, free supplement. Oh, my goodness. So we're always glad to help, though. And the videos. There you go. Now, remember, Brian does have free videos on YouTube as well. Who was it taking the 24? Rama, if you're still here, please check out Brian's YouTube video on fails to deliver and fails to receives and buy-in and sellouts. I am not joking. I have had 24 test takers in tears about how much of a difference that one video has made in their life, which is crazy. So if you are 24, by the way, check out Brian's free stuff. Anybody should check it out. But particularly if you're 24, please check out his, what do you call that video, Brian? Do you know what you call it? Buy-in sellouts? Or?
Buy-in and closeouts. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a day before exams. I have 2 for the 7, depending on your exam. But for all series exams, I have your exam in 60 minutes. Very popular videos. They're not going to pass watching 60 minutes of Dean talk about your exam. But I hope it gets you in a nice circadian rhythm. And then on the 7, I have tips, tricks, and memory aids. That also is a good video the night before. Missed the mark. 65, as we said, Gina, is a challenge. It didn't pass. I felt like most questions had 2 questions that were correct. They are allowed to use correct answers as distractors, wrong answers. They're going to pick the most correct. had a hard time finding the cooperative say which was the better answer. So that's a common thing we get in feedback. Were you close? If you don't mind sharing, remember chat, your private business isn't private because everybody can see the chat. But that being said, I'd like to know what your score was and how much you missed it by. Because, if you missed it by a lot, then that's knowledge deficit. If you missed it by a smaller amount, that's some other variable, like, I don't know, changing answers, family emergency, something like that.
That's exactly right.
Series 7 exam in 2 days. I like it. 7380. That'll work. That's a great score. Is it Mary or Maury? I hope I'm getting that right. 2 eyes. A 74 on a Kaplan Mastery is a great score.
That's really
so
good.
You should definitely feel confident. Any last minute advice to maximize these 2 days? Well, I always love it when somebody's right where we need them to be, because what you're doing is working. So in situations where you are where you need to be, I usually say rinse and repeat. And then the first thing I always say, Brian, if I'm helping you or on your own, the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm. You don't want to be going backwards. So anything that you think may make you go backwards instead of forwards, don't do it. So I was just telling somebody today, don't go down any rabbit holes. It's too late for that. What you need to do is firm up what you got as a base, because that's what you're going with. You want to relax the day before. Same advice, day before. Shouldn't be, trying to learn new stuff. You should reinforce what you got. Get a good night's sleep. Take the afternoon off. I have Mari or Mary a video the day before your exam. I'll post it in the video description. So in the video description, I'll go ahead and post it the day before podcast episode. So you said 2 days, so you're on tomorrow, and then I have some advice for you for the day before. You want to add anything to that, Brian?
No. With those scores, you're absolutely right. I feel really strong about that. Review. I like reviewing class notes.
There you go.
Those sorts of things.
Just keep it
like one of the last final exams.
I call it the 747 principle. It takes a 747, 120% of rated power to get off the ground. Nose back seats up. Once it gets there, it only takes 70% of it. It's to fly. And so that's like your study effort, right? So you're going like this. And then Mary, you're here, and all you got to do, I call it stick the landing. You just got to stick that landing 2 days from now. And there should be no expectation that you're not based on those scores. So kudos for what looks to be at this point a successful execution of a study plan. So that's why we say what you're doing is working. Now, sometimes we don't get to say that. Sometimes we got to say, you need some remediation. Not in your case. Yeah, you do need sponsorship, Oscar, for the 79. Louisville, Kentucky, 65 question. I'm taking the test in 11 days. You've watched all of Brian's test prep videos. Thank you. And completed 30% of 5,000 Q banks. What strategy would you recommend from here? I would like a practice test score. So I'm more interested, Quince, not that you did 30% of 5,000 questions. I would like to know what you did on a simulated practice exam. So could you put that in the chat for us? Because both Brian and I think it's about 7 to 10 days out, you should be doing a simulated exam. So we know whether you're going to need remediation or not. Right. So Brian and I both believe on the mid 70s. Where Brian and I disagree is Brian thinks on that first score, you may not need to do the 70% of the 5,000 questions you have not done. I think that you should have on your agenda exhausting your Q bank. So Brian thinks there's more productive things to perhaps doing. But both of us agree we can't make that kind of a decision unless we get a mark by taking a practice test. So that's what I want you to do first. And then from there.
He's just about into sweet spot too, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's right. Yeah.
So we'd like a practice score. If you already have one, put it in the chat for us.
Yeah.
If you feel like sharing, again, I don't want to maybe I'll be uncomfortable. Dave Costa, you've helped me pass the SIE, the 766, and the 9. Wow.
There we go.
Journey. Next week, you take the 10. All right. Man, that is a serious testing journey there. What would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wow.
5 exams.
Wow. By the way, when we have successful test takers, I don't know why you wouldn't take Brian and my word for content and tests, but when we have these victorious test takers in the house, feel free to reach out to them and chat. They may or may not feel comfortable answering, but most of them don't mind paying it forward and telling you, what their experience has been. Be careful about people talking about draws, because what somebody tells you their draw is, your draw could be substantially different. So it's good to have people tell you about debrief, and I do debrief and Brian does debrief, but we want to be careful you don't expect a certain draw. I'm wishing for all of you what I call the dream draw. Everything you studied shows up, but every once in a while somebody gets a face of death draw, and you got to be able to take down any draw. You've taken 6 practice exams, all good, Mary. You should make your mark. There's no reason to expect not making your mark. Taking the 10, Christina, on Saturday. Any advice? I focus mostly on Past Perfect and Kaplan. This is really, Christina, particularly is the 10. Really, we talk about getting rest and doing that, but on the 10, that's such a slog. Really, make sure you're rested. Nutrition-wise, I'm not one of those new age people like you got to eat right. But you don't want anything you can do to put yourself in that right rhythm. Please do it, whether it's rest or breakfast or anything you can do to get ready for that slog. Do it, Brian. Any advice?
Yeah, when it comes to the 9, 10, 24,
yeah,
I actually, if people can handle it, I like multiple textbooks, multiple publishers. She's using both Past Perfect and Kaplan. Perfect. Because I find with those supervisory exams, some textbooks kind of leave things out, others kind of bring things in. So I like those multiple textbook publishers.
Well, I would say this in general. Now, good news, Christina, it is true that in the 9, 10s, and 24s, most of the test takers do have more resources. And so they can afford to invest in multiple vendors.
That's right.
But I don't think anybody should be monogamous about their study materials. What I mean by that is I don't have the expectation that anybody's using my channel exclusively or Brian's paid supplements exclusively, because, anything that can help you pass is worthwhile. Now, you don't want to get so many voices in your head that you get confused. But that being said, if you can add a Kaplan Cubic, you have a STC, or Kaplan Cubic got Past Perfect, or vice versa. So not only do I believe that, Brian, the principal exams, I really do with you. The other reason I do that, particularly in the principal exams, is helpful because there's a lot of judgment questions. Right. It's good to get different exposure to, those kind of judgment kind of style questions. But I recommend that I recommend if anybody has the resources, they should not only just use one source. So, I call it, I always your primary study materials and then supplements. And your supplement could be a whole another course from another vendor. It could be Brian's paid supplement. It could be the channel. But I really believe you should mix it up. Is it typical to have a 10, 15-point difference in practice tests on the 66 with STC taking Monday and keep getting passing, not passing? I think it is, and here's why. I don't know if this is true or not, apocryphal. But what happens when STC is writing their exams, and this is true when I write exams, by the time you've written 2, 3, 4 of them, the nature of writing the 6th one is like, oh man, I've already asked that 5 different ways. What's another way to ask that? And those tend to get a little more obtuse as you go along. So I don't know if you're, this is like you're doing this 2, you do well, fail 3, pass 4. But in general, I would think there's an arc there. And again, I wouldn't be too worried about failing scores if they're in the high 60s with 70s. I get worried if you're below 60 because that means you have a knowledge deficit problem. Hey, on Test Geek, do you plan having the SIE and 63 series in one package at Dean? So is that one of your combos or not, Brian? SIE 63?
I can't. I don't think the SIE is bundled with 63. Like I said, I think it's the 6 that's bundled with the 63. I've only bundled the SIE with the 7.
Okay.
Because I bundle those, I'm not allowed to bundle anything. It's
his platform. So just send him an email.
Send me an email.
Send him an email. And like I say, good news. Brian,
I'll discount 2 of them for you.
Yeah, there you go. Brian knows the boss man at Test Geek Exam Prep LLC.
We're on a first name basis.
There you go. What is a comfortable score? 66. Brian and I think mid 70s is where you need to be. There are, people at your firm and people at those vendors that think you should be in the 80s or 90s. Higher scores are better. We think you're not at risk if you can routinely pull a mid-70 score on a practice test.
Exactly.
Yes to the SIE. Looking for a study partner for 65. Is there someone in Alexandria, Virginia? So there you go. If you are, reach out to Yeti. I'll tell you what, you might want a Yeti on the community page. You're welcome to post there. I think it'll let people post besides myself. You're welcome to post on the community page. The other thing is we have a Reddit called R66, and that's for the 63, 65, 66. And then I'm the moderator there, but there's another one, R65. It's just for 65 folks. And you could post there. I'm sure if you post in those areas, you'll probably find some. And then there's a Facebook page. What is that one called? I'll link to it in the video description, but it's FINRA SIE 6566, I think. I'm active there. You'll see me if you find the right one. Do we have any other Facebook people here? Let me just see. They probably know. Gina, do you know what that Facebook page is? I'm just strolling through our Facebook folks. And if you are one of those Facebook, Maria, do you know that? Are you a member of that group, or are you just a member of my Facebook page? But if you put that in the chat, that would be helpful. So Yeti could reach out and try and find somebody to study with. Right on, Isaac. Again, I thought no chance you were going to pass based on your performance and the time we spent together. So I wasn't worried about you at all. As you know, I passed Wednesday. I found out my next test is a 6. What timetable do you think? It depends if you're full-time study or not. If you're full-time study, what do you think? A couple weeks, or I'm being too aggressive, Brian?
I don't think it needs more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks, Isaac. What's that? And if you did a good job, Isaac, based on my experience with you, I really believe this is why I'm such a push not barely passing the SIE. You really want to overlearn the SIE, because if you're going on a second leg of your testing journey and you overlearn the SIE, it will pay huge, huge dividends. And you could almost pass out of a 6. Am I going too far to say somebody who put in the effort on the SIE could pass out of a 6? What do you think, Brian? Close.
It's close. It really is.
So you just had to add a little more perhaps. So I think 2 weeks is plenty of time.
I think
so. I wouldn't want you to take too long. The other reason that you don't want to have test dates that are too far out is because at some point you start going backwards and you start, making it more difficult than it has to be. So there is a reason to do things sooner rather than later. So I would prefer that there's a sense of urgency in getting that next leg done, right? Congrats, Dave. Indeed, congrats. Any tips? Hi, everyone. Any tips to overcome test anxiety? The number one tip I have, and I'll let other people respond in the chat, is confidence. Confidence. The more confident you are, I think that that can take care of some of the anxiety. Brian, you have any advice for anxiety?
It is something that a lot of people deal with, including you and I, because we have to kind of teach towards that. When it comes to test anxiety, it's something that is inherent in us. We don't change it. It won't go away. What I try to tell people is that you can't allow it to influence your answers. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let outside influences start causing you to change answers. That's the best I can do.
That's pretty damn good, though. I got to say, that's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. 10 first. Then, well, good news, Christina. That means the 9 will feel like a walk in the park.
Exactly.
Getting the Q bank. All right.
Good job.
Hello, Dean and Brian. I was wondering if you think Kaplan questions are more or less difficult than the actual Series 7. The answer also is they're more difficult. The guy at Kaplan that does the Series 7 is one of Brian's favorite people, a guy named Bill James. He's in charge of the Q bank. And Brian's laughing because he knows I'm joking a little bit. But even Brian would agree that Mr. James can be a little obtuse. So by design, the answer is Kaplan questions are designed to be tougher because Kaplan would like you, Austin, to be pleasantly surprised rather than being unpleasantly surprised. So the answer is yes. Now, by the way, they're not as hard as past perfect questions. So Kaplan does have some outrageous questions, where I go, oh my God, my favorite one The other guy at Kaplan who's in charge of the Q bags is a guy named Chuck Lowenstein. He's the NASA guy. And every once in a while, he'll have a rationale why you may not see this on your exam. And I'm like, okay, well, then why are you putting it in the Q bag? I have one for Chuck that I found that's on LIBOR. LIBOR doesn't exist anymore. So I'm going to send Chuck an email saying, you got this 65 practice question about LIBOR. It doesn't exist anymore. And I'm betting you Chuck is going to come up with some convoluted reply. Well, still tested. Or well, you're not going to have to do the theoretical value of a right, trading com or X. It's one of those legacy questions that drives Brian and I nuts. Nobody wants to lead it. You do need to be able to compare and contrast, Nico. Rights are short-term, exercisable below the current market price, and warrants are long-term, exercisable above the current market price. And I would know you have a preemptive right, your right to maintain proportional ownership, the mechanism of a rights offering. So very quickly, if I tell you, for example, I call you and say, hey, Nico, you know that stock we own? You say, yeah. I said, well, they're issuing some more shares. And if you don't buy the new shares, you're going to get diluted. You're going to own the same number of shares, but there's a lot larger shares of number of shares outstanding. If we can raise the money, if the corporation can raise the money from its existing shareholders like you, they don't have to hire an investment bank, and they're willing to pass those savings on to you. So you can subscribe at 4 and the stock is 5. You say, wow, Dean, at issuance, it has intrinsic value. I said, whoa, Nico, very impressive. Been studying your options, have you? You're right. Theoretically, being able to buy the stock at 4 when the stock's at 5 theoretically is worth $1. I say, Nico, as many shares as you have, that's how many rights you have. So if you have 1,000 shares, you have 1,000 rights. It takes 2 rights to get an additional share. I just made that up. That's given information. So I say, Nico, if you have 1,000 shares, and you have 1,000 rights, take 2 rights. If you'd like to subscribe, you can buy 500 shares at 4, $2,000. I'll send your rights and your check into the rights transfer agent. You will have maintained your proportionate ownership. You don't have to, if you don't want to, maintain your proportionate ownership. Very testable. Your shares are not accessible. We can ask you, Nico, politely to provide additional equity financing. We can't demand it. Now, if you don't want to do that, we should sell those rights to someone else. Because theoretically, being able to buy the stock at 4 when the stock's at 5 is worth $1, takes 2. They have a theoretical value of a right is 50 cents. I just gave you the formula for theoretical value of a right trading X. Hint, Nico, whenever Brian doesn't go to his whiteboard, it's because he doesn't think it's on the test. He thinks I just stole 5 minutes of your life that you're never going to get back because it's not testable. But if you'd like, I think there's still a couple opportunities. Afterwards. And in the Zoom session, the overtime session, there's a pinned link at the top of the chat. Assuming there's still availability, just go there and register. And I'm more than happy to open a whiteboard and show you that math because I don't want Brian to get mad at me if I do that.
That's funny.
There you go. Continually scoring between 77 and 79. That's right where you need to be, Michael. So,
well, I'm liking these practice scores.
Isn't it something? We get spoiled. Don't you get spoiled, Brian, when you have like the guy who started today? I'm like, oh, this is great. Best practices. Well, Michael, as we said, for those of you who are getting those scores, you're already using best practices. Yeah. And that's what's so nice because you're on track, rinse and repeat. So I think you're doing best practices. Check out I'll link to my podcast episode on building a study plan. Do you have that building a study plan when you're free YouTube, your version of that, Brian? I think you do. Don't you have a free?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
So Michael, there's 2 videos. I'll link to both of them about you're going Friday. So not sure watching Brian and I explain what we recommend to brand new people entering the process would be helpful to you. I think what you're doing is working. So maybe not. Maybe we should just leave you alone.
Like you said, do no harm, right?
Yeah. So I think what you're doing is working. Yeah, you just watch the video in 60 minutes, Erica. Any tips? Get off the thing and go to bed. As Brian said, you should. You need your sleep. You just got to go down there tomorrow and be performance. I love what Brian says. You take the test tomorrow. Don't let the test take you. Don't change your answers. Right now it's more a psyche thing than anything. Just making sure you're as rested as you can be. You're in, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning, hopefully. And, lay down, play the game, leave it on the field, as they say, right? Circle back. Let us know how you did. We don't know what your practice test scores are. That would be helpful. You want to share it with us. I don't know if at this point it's helpful to tell you whether you're at risk or not. Maybe you don't want to know. Testing like every 40 questions, you close your eyes, take a deep breath, count backwards. I love that. That's a great advice. I call that, I have a version of that, but I call it taking a mental trip to Tahiti. So what I tell people is that every 40 questions, take a mental trip to Tahiti, but get back quickly. Don't be gone too long. The other thing I tell people, Trish, is if you do forget something, I will astral project it back to you. So if the exam that happens while you're testing, oh my God, I can't remember everything. I want you to go, and then I'll hear you, and I will astral project it all back to you. Now, it may take me a minute, Trish, if you're on the East Coast, because my astral projection, frequency, the longer the distance, the harder it is for me to find you. 7 and 3 weeks, that's where you need to be. So, Judith, if I were your corporate trainer and we're 3 weeks out and you're scoring 73 on STC, I'm feeling pretty good. And, if I was backstage talking to somebody about Judith and I was saying, hey, she's 3 weeks out, she's got a 73, we would move on to our next candidate and say, okay, well, she's not a problem. Who's next? So I think
would you, Dean, with that type of time left and that good of score, would you recommend perhaps looking at some other vendors' practice finals to confirm or deny?
Yeah,
would that do more harm than good?
Well, STC, so again, you're 3 weeks out and you're scoring 73. I don't know if that's your first STC. So STC's Q bank is not as deep as other Q banks. And so maybe, I don't know if Brian's hinting at this, if you were getting a 90 on that, I'd be concerned it's because you've gone B, C, D, A. I remember this one. In that case, yes, I do think you need to get a supplemental Q bank every once in a while, very rarely. So please be very careful in listening carefully to what I'm saying. Very, very rarely. Brian and I will tell you to get mid 70s and somebody will get high 80s and then they miss the mark and we're completely shocked. And almost always it's because they have memorized the Q bank questions and answers. And that's easier to do in a thin Q bank. So that would be what I would add to that. But right now, I don't know if we should be saying how negative vibes this early to her.
No, it's really good.
You're a good spot. So if you want to supplement, and supplement means watch videos, Judith, or buy Brian's paid supplement or buy a Kaplan Q bank, I would feel empowered to do so. I think it's always better to have too much resources than not enough. And so I do think it's helpful. We were talking earlier to get some diversification there in the questions, STCs and Kaplans, I think is a good mix. But Kaplan, like I say, Kaplan, Knopman, Pass Perfect, Kaplan, all good vendors. Brian at Teskey? No, Brian at Teskey Exam. Let me put it back.
IAN, yes.
There you go. There it is. Brian at TeskeyExamPrep.com. Right. And if his course, do you have any previews of your courses, Brian, on Teachable, or do you have to pay to watch anything?
Well, the YouTube will give you a pretty good idea of what I do and how I do it, I think.
Okay. Let's see. Where am I at? There we go. All right. Good night. All right. You watched that video? Great. I followed your advice to a T. Read the book. Units above 70, 10 days before in the mastery. So thank you. Good execution based on good advice. Love it. I love it. I just, too bad we can't get more people, Brian, to do what we say. It's pretty aggravating, particularly if they make the mark, no problem. Do it any way you want. But I had a young lady. I kind of respect how willful she was, but she says, Dean, I have my own way of doing options. I go, well, that's great. There's all kinds of different ways to do options. But, the way you're doing it doesn't leading you to right answers. So, you need it doesn't have to be the matrix or the aerobics or whatever, but you got to be able to get right answers. Is the SIC mandatory? Well, I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but the word is you can't have an active 7 without an SIE. So any FINRA exam to be active has to have an SIE passed. They're what we call co-requisites. 66 does not require the SIE. The 7, you need sponsorship, as Brian told you, and you can't take the 7 doesn't become active unless there's an SIE with it. So whatever order you choose, assuming you have sponsorship, you could take the 6 or the 7, then take the SIE. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it, right? So Brian's giving you a nice little overview there on that. There you go.
How's that?
There you go. So seems like that's coming up quite a bit.
Sponsorship.
Yeah,
All
FINRA regard. Yeah, that's crazy. SIE doesn't. That's the only FINRA exam that does not require sponsorship.
And it's relatively new, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2 old guys like us. I can attest I failed the 7 twice before discovering this YouTube channel resources. Thanks, Carla. I wish people would find the channel sooner. We are getting people finding it sooner, just the nature of having over 3 million views, and we're coming up on 30,000 subscribers. And I just had somebody today, Brian, that told me they put in, I don't, Carla, do SEO stuff. I don't do any of that. I don't do hashtags. I just try to make videos that I think would be helpful, and then let, whatever happens, happens. But that being said, somebody said they told me in Google they put in Series 7 help, and my channel came back, which I'm like, wow, I feel like, the Gotham light in the sky calling Batman, Series 7 help. All right, the Series 7 guru, here I go. Yeah, that was good advice, Trish. I did like that advice. Third attempt at 7, when do I know I'm ready? And what should you be scoring? We mentioned, Daniel, with your case, maybe higher than mid-70s, but mid-70s is where we want you to be routinely. Daniel, I did get your email with your QID, but it didn't come up again. So I don't know. If you send that email again to me again, if it's not a corrected QID, just cut and paste it or screenshot it, and I'll take care of that for you. What is Brian's email address again? Okay. You're probably going to regret that, Brian. There it is, Brian at testgeekexamprep.com.
Good thing I don't have to take a test tomorrow morning. I can stay up there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. We're coming up on the end of our time. Again, if you want to join me at 6:15 in a overtime Zoom session, the link to do so is at the top of the page. It's a max of 10. So if you hit that link and it doesn't show up, it means it's been maxed out, and then it shuts down, doesn't let anybody else register. But I'll put another one up. I do it every 2-3 weeks. I don't do it every Tuesday after this. Let's see. And maybe if you join, I think it was Nico, maybe we'll start with right, calculating the value of a right. Let's see, where was I at? What's a good score? Last leg. Thanks, Sarah, for joining us from LinkedIn. Last leg doing 66. Finding hard to retain and understanding information. Keep getting exemptions crossed. What do I recommend? I recommend the guy in the right screen there. That is who I recommend. He is so good at NASA exams. So, Sarah, I will link in the video description. Brian was kind enough to teach a evening course for us. Evening courses will start showing up again on my booking page. But Brian did one called Definitions and Registrations that people have found very, very helpful. So I would recommend that to you. And then I would also recommend the 3 podcast episodes that we have in our 66 playlist. Very nice overviews. And Brian does the best job at that. I highly recommend, Sarah, if you can, and you don't already have access to it, consider investing in Brian's Test Geek 66 supplement. I think it's really excellent, Brian.
And just a quick note. We get this question quite a bit about the exempt securities versus exempt transactions. Just to let you know, there's not a ton of them on the real test.
Yeah,
there might be a couple of them.
Yeah. There are so many potential rabbit holes on the 66. And one of my pet peeves, Sarah, is vendors are the ones who sometimes send people down these rabbit holes, where based on the content they're sharing with you, you think, oh my God, this has got to be a big deal. And not so much. The other one I would say about that, Eric, would you agree, Brian? The other ones here, I think that this could be an issue, is analytical tools and methods.
That's right.
The discounted cash flow and all that kind of stuff. Right. All right. Woo! So for the 65, you are welcome. You're welcome. All right, we got a couple more. Then we got to do our drawing thing here. Is it a good idea to take a mental break too? If you stay, yeah, take a break. Burnout is real. You can overwork yourself. I have found when people are working too hard, it's always great to be able to take somebody working too hard because it's usually the opposite. They're not working hard enough. But that being said, if you will take a break and give your brain a chance to refresh and reset, I've had people whose scores go up at least 10 points just from taking a day off. Your brain will still be working. And I think in your study plan, you need to build a stay off. When I'm helping somebody build their study plan, I say, okay, what's your day off going to be? Is it going to be Sunday? Is it going to be Friday? If you're not a full-time studier, a day off doesn't mean you don't go to work Friday. It means you just don't do anything oriented to the exam. Let your brain just kind of veg on it. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I'm trying to read between the lines. I'm trying to
see
what they're saying there. Depending on taking a break after failing the exam, should I take a break and then?
I think the break should only be 3, 4, 5 days max before you get back to whatever the next leg is. Whether the next leg is a retake or another test. I think we said good scores, mid-70s. All right, Jeff, sending good test vibes. Firing up the T for options. If you get good on contract specifications, you can track money, you get 100% on options. You're welcome. Could you take a look at this Kaplan question, Logan? Send it to me in an email, and I will put it on the channel. Here is my email. Send that QID to me, and I'm more than happy. Tell me what series exam you're taking, because sometimes people send me QIDs. So send that to me. If you want to join us in the live stream, if there's still a spot, I'll bring it up on a shared screen, and we can do it there as well. We can't do that here because it messes up the broadcast. But if there's still a slot in the live stream, go ahead and sign up for that. And that's 6:15, 15 minutes from now. And I'm more than happy to bring that up on a shared screen and talk about it with you. All right. So we're getting close here. Let's see what else.
There's our word for the day, Dean.
Arctic?
Because that's what it feels like in about 80% of the country.
I think there's no C there. Isn't Arctic got ART?
Arctic.
Arctic. Is it? Well, you're the geologist guy. I'll take your word for it.
Yes.
So you're saying that that's how we spell the word Arctic is the proper way. So it's the Arctic Circle?
Yes.
Is that really true?
I believe, yeah.
All right. So let me do that. Let me get this up. So if you want to participate in the 30-minute coaching call, exactly as Brian has that on the board, that's how you need to put that into the chat. And let me go get the chat thing fired up here. And let's see, share screen. Boom, boom. There we go. And let me make that a full boom thing.
You didn't put the C in there.
Let me, well, see, that's one. I got to add myself back. So put it in just as you see it there.
Okay. So forget the C.
Yeah. I think we blew it. There's nobody in there, so I think I blew it. There's 0 entries. So you got to put it back without the C. Without the C. There we go, DB. So I misspelt it. So the way you see it, I have it spelt is the way you need to put it.
Okay. Yeah. See, now there's a lot of people who spelled it with the C.
Yeah. It's my fault. My fault. I even commented on it. And I still misspelled it.
There we go. There we go. Everybody's miscorrecting it, I guess. Is that a word? Miscorrecting it?
I didn't know that. I learn something new all the time.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah. Carla, I'm not sure if it has to be all caps. I think it does on this giveaway tool. So, Carla, you might want to put that back in all caps. But my understanding is it has to be Morgan, same thing. If we see Morgan, your name go by, that means it's in there. But if not, so not only did I misspell it, but I think you put it all caps on your whiteboard. So I think I did it all caps too. Okay. So I
always spell in caps. I always write in caps. Yeah.
All right. So last call. Anybody else? Again, at the top of the chat, there's a pinned link to the overtime session. If you don't see that, you're joining us from LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. and you want to join us, just go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, hit the class button, and there'll be a free class called Live Overtime, Zoom Overtime, and you can join us. All right, here we go. Time to spin the wheel.
And the winner is...
Yay! Hey, Caesar. All right.
Hill.
He's been an alum previous winner. So you know the drill. Just send me that email, Dean, the Series 7 Guru, gmail.com, and I will send you the link to your Zoom coaching call. Let me get rid of this now. Boom. And let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of the banner. Okay, so thanks for joining us. I'll see some of you 15 minutes from now. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch, yard by yard, your exam is art. And Brian, you say?
Keep it simple. Stay with what you know.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. See you then. Bye-bye.